This show is presented by the 323 Network. You can watch all your favorite 323 friends and shows on the 323 Network YouTube channel, follow us on all social media platforms at 323read, and support us as we continue to grow at patreon.com/323read. That's 323REID. I saw a spider on like the side of my house called a Jarro spider. I had to look it up. Found out it's like a whole trending thing here in like the DMV.
Oh, are those the ones that fly?
Yeah, like they're
What?
they're giant spiders,
No.
but like they're
No.
They're
It's even better. Yeah, they don't just fly. They like build a web parachute and they like parachute in.
Yeah,
like this.
It's crazy. like they're like big ass spiders, but like they're so light, they just get picked up and go where it takes them. So now they're coming here from Georgia and just landing
thanks,
all
Georgia.
over the place. Yeah. So we were just talking about Jarro spiders. Have you gotten those in Virginia Beach yet? You're closer to Georgia than me. You should have them. They're these giant,
Wait, that sounds familiar.
They're these giant yellow spiders that like they get picked
They're
up by
yellow
the wind.
too?
Yeah.
They're like paratroopers. Yeah. You ever seen Band of Brothers? They're like
no. Nope.
Yeah, they just get picked up by the wind. They're coming from Georgia and they're like landing throughout like Virginia and DC and Maryland now.
Sure.
And just making a home. Like there's a home like right on the side.
Oh, these guys. Yeah, I see them at work all the time.
Oh, I don't like it. As long as they're on the ground, I'm cool.
Here's the thing. Because they're bright yellow, like they pop out easy. Yeah. So it's not like, oh shit, it's there. It's like, I'll be walking to a house and it'll like be up in the corner. And like when you get too close, they like shake on their web, so it's like they make themselves very known too.
They're apparently,
I want
harmless.
you to be lying about all of this.
No, this is where you'll want me to be lying. This is the one time I hated them. So this was maybe year 2 at my job. I walked out in the backyard, and it's like I kind of felt like the web like on my hair. So I saw one, and then I turned around. Literally, the whole deck was filled with just webs in each of them, and my heart literally stopped. I'd never wanted to burn down a house so quick in my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 323. I am your host, Reed Murphy. It is good for us all to be back. What a shitty week it's been since we were last on. It's like everything has possibly happened that we don't really want to talk about, but we could talk about, but I don't know if we will. And that's why we just said, fuck it. Let's do a potluck episode. And it's going to be one of the most fun potlucks that we have done yet, because not only is our regular Zubair, our Curry Puff himself, one of the co-hosts of Animation Deliberations, Zuhair Ali, is back. He's here. He's thriving. He's glowing. He's dealing with Jarro spiders, apparently, just nonchalantly. Good for you, Zoo. But he is also launching a full-on Stranded Panda crossover takeover here on the 323 Network, because joining us tonight are two great friends of the show from the Stranded Panda Network. I know them from my time over on Multiverse News. Did a great episode. It could be, some would say, the greatest episode of all time of Multiverse News. Yes, yeah. Hayley's doing that because
people are saying it.
People are saying it.
Streets are talking.
Hayley, Hobbs, and Jay Sisson are here. You can check them out. Also, the source pages, Commute, the podcast. Great to have you guys here. Hayley, it's wonderful to have another Chiefs fan on the show. We're like one more away from, I think, being an official Kansas City Chiefs podcast.
Wait, who's the other one? Because
2.
Oh, we have my mom. Mama Murphy makes an appearance every Super Bowl.
Yeah,
week.
with her impeccable taste.
Oh, of course, yeah. Bandwagon.
Well, this is
sure,
what the bandwagon will do for you. You know, win a couple Super Bowls. Everybody's a fan.
Can say in the comments, thank you.
We have the two old ladies that bet, Mindy and Tiffany. They're big Chiefs fans. We had somebody else, I think, that was a Chiefs fan too. So we're way in there. So welcome to the club. You're the
welcome to the winning side of life.
Almost, I think we could almost call you like Aunt Hayley. You're finally like joining over. Zeus brought you guys up a lot. We'll call you Aunt Hayley on the show. That face is warranted.
I feel old now.
Well, it's 8:30. We
Queen
all feel
Hayley,
old.
but well, no, yeah, I think Queen's better.
Speaking of Queen, what's up, King? Jay is here. Jay Sisson wearing the Marshall shirt. I like that shirt.
Oh yeah, Marshall Thundering Herd. You know, it's a lifestyle over here. We're more of a soccer school, but you know, we have other teams.
Works out. It's good to have you guys over here. I know you guys were very excited to come over. Stranded. If you all could tell tell the audience a little bit about Stranded Panda. Zoo obviously has before, but that's you guys' home over there. And I know you guys were excited to come over here to the sports show and, talk spiders with us.
Yeah, and soccer, because no.
Hey, national champs over here. Soccer national
congratulations, champs. Jay. That's nice for you.
I wasn't on the team, but
can y'all tell
the shirt?
Take the W. Stranded Panda is a podcast network where you can find like all things geeky covered for the most part. Marvel is the flagship podcast, so a lot of stuff stems from that. But we have the show Jay and I are on, Multiverse News, where we cover entertainment news every single week on Tuesdays. My show with Brian, which is comic book and book talk, and Zoo show, animation. Like, we've got it all. Right now, the TV show is doing House of the Dragon and The Boys and The Acolyte. So it's like one-stop shop.
I can actually finally jump in on so much of that. I'm done with The Acolyte. I just started season 3 of The Boys. So yeah, there's a lot I could use. I got to catch up on the pods.
They're there for your consumption.
I will consume. Hey, this is the Potluck episode. We've been trying these out as we roll, finish out season 3, and I think it's been pretty fun. So simple rules, easy to prep for. Everybody just brings a topic, just like a potluck. We bring a topic to this podcast and, talk about whatever you want. It could be sports, could be entertainment, politics, life, spiders, anything that you want, and we will all try to discuss and have a hear you out on it. So it's great to have a full table for it tonight. We're going to eat good, and I think we'll start with company tonight. We'll Jay, if I could throw you to the wolves, if you want to start with your topic. Yeah.
We never get to talk sports on Stranded Panda shows. Sometimes we'll get into sports talk on Multiverse News, and everybody will look at us like we have 3 heads, and we just never get to go there. So given the opportunity to talk sports, I want to talk about a show that I've been watching, which is HBO's Hard Knocks, but it's HBO's Hard Knocks offseason with the New York Giants. And I love Hard Knocks. I don't know if you guys watch Hard Knocks when it comes out every year, but I think it's like really fascinating, and HBO's really expanded it. Normally it's a training camp thing. Like you watch Hard Knocks, they pick a team, you do training camp, you get all these storylines, you watch the rookies get their hearts broken and get cut and make the team sometimes. I mean, it's great. Like, it's great TV. But then they've expanded to like in-season Hard Knocks. So you get like a look at a team as they move through the season, and it's really fascinating stuff. Like, it's behind the scenes and everything. But now we're getting this new run of HBO's Hard Knocks called Hard Knocks Offseason with the New York Giants. You basically see no players. It's all front office. It's all math. It's all free agents. It's all this type of stuff, the draft and all of that, which sounds boring, but I've found it like immensely fascinating, because it's like you're seeing stuff that you talk about, but like to see it in real life and how it's done, I think is so interesting. So have you all watched any of this, or am I alone in seeing this so far?
So my relationship with Hard Knocks, I started watching it the last few years, and for some reason I get really caught up in watching every week when they're doing the preseason stuff, but then I fall off when it comes to like the in-season stuff. I don't know if it's because I'm consuming like so much Commanders content or trying to keep up with like the league, or being on this show, that I just forget about Hard Knocks because there's so much to keep up with. But I do enjoy the highlights of it. And as for the off-season stuff, like, I haven't actually sat down and taken the time to watch it. But because it's our division rivals, I've been like paying attention to the highlights that they've been posting every week. And me just hoping that organization is as much of a shit show as we give them credit for. But the content that they've been putting out has been so fascinating, like the call with Saquon, and them how badly they wanted Jaden Daniels. Now we can just like dangle it in front of them for the next few years. So it really has. I didn't think I'd be this impressed with how much the offseason stuff would be.
What's so weird is like you see these relationships that you just can really peel back the layers of it. And the most interesting relationship to me is the GM, Joe Sheen, and the owner of the Giants. And like, because you can tell that it's like weird, like it's not that they don't get along, but it's that their views are mismatched. Like the GM wants to build a team under the salary cap that can compete and not get bloated salaries and draft good players and figure out what to do with Daniel Jones and like all that stuff, right? But the owner is thinking about like the value of the team. We're in New York. The media is like criticizing us all the time. We won Super Bowls, but we haven't won any lately. Like that's what he's thinking about. And he'll just randomly like stroll into his office and you can tell the tension is like through the roof. Like it's weird. Like he'll walk into his office and be like, so what's the deal with Saquon? Like. What's going on with Saquon? And he's like, well, I mean, listen, he wants to be like here and like we kind of need him here. And he's like, oh, well, he's our best player. So I was just wondering. Okay. And then he'll walk out and it's like weird. And then he'll come back and he'll be like, so anything about Saquon? I mean, he's our most popular player. I mean, I want him in the Ring of Honor. And he'll be like, well, I mean, it's just that everybody else is outbid. Like he's trying to explain it to him like he's like a grandpa. He's like, he costs this and we want him at this. Like he's trying to get the point across. And the guy is like so just focused on like, no, we need Saquon here because he's money machine and like people love him. And he comes in and says what I think has been the soundbite of the season. He says, if he goes to the Eagles, I won't be able to sleep at night. And we know he did go to the Eagles. So it's like, it's just like this really, it's so interesting to see because it's so relationship based, but it's also so based in like numbers and data and conversations. And I've found it so fascinating because it's this other side of the NFL.
What was the awkward line of like, you promise you're going to come back around to us? He was like, what? He's like,
yeah. He told Saquon,
he's going to give us a chance. I'm just like, what the fuck? Are you begging right now?
That sucks. Like it sucks to be put in that position by the person over you. Ugh, yuck.
It feels like nothing. Feels like pressure and stress getting to watch that. I'm like Zoo. I've seen a lot of the highlights. I haven't gotten to watch the full thing, but I am looking forward to watching it in full and catching up. Just because, one, as a Commanders fan, it feels like a keeping your enemies closer type of situation, and getting to watch that shit show go out. Like I love the clip with Jaden Daniels and trying to, get one over on him, and Jaden Daniels is good by it, and now you can just hope that he's just torching them for 20 years. But it's also like, this feels like a treasure trove of a show because the way that this is looking, which, I mean, from highlights doesn't seem particularly great on the GM, Joe Shine, but, like, this kind of access is unprecedented. Like you said, this is all the stuff that's kind of like shrouded over. Like we just kind of have a vague idea of how it goes, but now we're seeing the full thing. And it, to me, has not come off as looking great on the organization and on that front office in terms of how things have been handled. I mean, the loss of Saquon to Philly, now that we know it was about like I think $1 million in value.
Oh, it was tight. Yeah.
It was a very tight window that they lost him on. And I mean, for a running back, ultimately, you can maybe make it up, but it all depends on how this season goes. And we know that there's pressure on the Giants organization. And if this comes back as like some type of Exhibit A evidence along with a poor performance during the season, and you have the fan base like throwing memes out from this Hard Knocks and calling for the firing via the Hard Knocks episodes and scenes, then like I know they'll keep doing the show and doing the off-season version, but I don't know how many teams are going to be willing to be on board with it or try to sanitize it with the league's help.
Did they say what they offered to the Commanders to move up to number 2 in the draft?
No. So the draft episode is coming next week, and you'll get that look. But yeah, there's been like the scouting, and there's been an episode with the combine and stuff like that. But they have not done the draft episode yet. This past week was really focused on free agency, and they talked about the Brian Burns trade a lot and like how that went down. But what I think is interesting too is like these things kind of go down in the same way that we talk about it is the same way they talk about it. So like they're literally at like a bowl game, and the GM of the Panthers and the GM of the Giants are there, and they're friends. And he's just like, "You want to give us a 1 for Brian Burns?" And he's like, "I don't know, maybe not a 1, but I mean, we'll talk." And like that's where it started. Like that's really interesting to me. Like it's just they're just shooting the shit, and they're just talking about like, "Oh yeah, I mean Brian Burns, he's pretty good." Well, then they pulled the defensive coordinator, and they're like, "What do you think about Brian Burns?" He's like, "I mean, I like Brian Burns. I mean, he's pretty good." I'm like, "Okay." Well, he likes Brian Burns, so I guess let's call him and see. It's just like the way we would talk about it is like the way they talk.
Casual.
It's like you think that it's like some kind of like they have a matrix or something, but it's kind of just they just talk. Like they just kind of have conversations a little bit, and that's how they just sort of generate like.
So all the time that they're like,
sure, yeah, I like him.
all the times that people say it's like, oh yeah, what actually is draft value? So like, they don't fucking know either. It's
no,
like,
they don't.
How does this one sound? Like
even bringing the guys in for the interviews, they're just like, oh yeah, I'm going to read you a long play, and then 5 minutes later I'm going to say it, and if he remembers it, I'm supposed to be like blown away. It's like, I don't know, like it seems like there should be more than this, I guess, on some level.
This is what happens when you pull the curtain back on the wizard. Like, and I think we're going to talk about that with my topic too, where it's like, I don't know if we want to be seeing all this because does it kind of take the guild off of the thing, the institution, the franchise to see that they're just doing the same shit we are, but getting paid a lot more money, which is, infuriating on so many levels.
You just want to see it for your division rival. That's all.
That's it.
If that is content you enjoyed, like you should definitely check out the Commanders log on their YouTube page. Because every couple of months they do episodes like that. Like obviously they're going to make themselves look good, but with the new ownership and stuff, like the last episode was the process of retiring the Darryl Green jersey and what it was like to have new ownership that actually reached out to the veterans and trying to incorporate them back to the organization. And then same thing, it went like into the draft and you got to see the war room. So it's like the viral video of the Eagles GM like trying to trade up for his guy. Like you got to see the other side of it with Adam Peters of that phone call and him calling him a pain in the ass. So it's like everything that happened in the room and why they're picking the people they did, and it was really fascinating stuff.
I love it for right now, and it's like I say for right now. I'm gonna enjoy it for everything because I just know how this league will operate because we've seen it with Hard Knocks, like the main iteration of the show, where it just depends team by team who's going to give that access, right? Like I remember when the Raiders were on a few or maybe it was more at this point. It was back when John Gruden came back, and first episode was so sanitized, where he's literally kissing babies and handing them back to people. Like he was like the face of Oakland. John Gruden is like Oakland's savior, and then they moved to Vegas the next year. And before that, you had the Cleveland Browns who gave like almost too much access, where you're seeing Hugh Jackson learn about his mom dying. So, like, you don't know which way the show can go.
The Raiders one was one of the best ones because it was the Antonio Brown summer, which was like where he like froze his foot off and like all that, and then quit mid training camp and everything. Like that was fantastic. You got to see all of it.
But they missed everything on there because he froze his feet, but we didn't get where he called Mike Mayock a cracker, and so it's just like you kind of miss. Like, what are we doing?
I feel like the Raiders should be just every other year Hard Knocks. Like they're just on a continual. Some shit's gonna go down with them every other year.
Well, I love that. I love that plate, Jay. Thank you for that plate. I love good Hard Knocks. The other thing about Hard Knocks is the music. Like I can always get. Yeah, it makes anything sound epic. You put that music behind it. We might do that in post. Just put that music behind somebody talking about anything. We could talk about genre spiders, and it'll sound epic. Well, sticking, I think, in the same area of, football on TV, I think that we can go over, good companion plate over here with Hayley Hobbs. What do you got for us?
Hard Knocks' knockoff brand on Netflix, which is Receiver this year. Okay, maybe it's a sleeper cell agent that's making us not like these football players because we're seeing too much of them and too into their routines, which I don't want to know about all of this, you guys. Like, I'm not interested. And I don't know. I quarterback was, from a biased point of view, it was amazing because Patrick Mahomes and we won the Super Bowl. And like, how could you not love watching that as a Chiefs fan? But then I thought receiver was so boring. Like, we aren't even done. I had to tap out. I was like, I can't even stand watching this anymore. Like, I'm so bored. And my husband's like, I paused it before the division stuff. We'll get to. I'm like, okay, I'll watch that. But I don't know. I'm just like, there's like obviously this, the quarterback skill position, receiver skill position, but there's clearly a chasm even between those two skill positions, and it's very apparent when they're being interviewed and when you're watching them just like do their stuff. And I was just like, this is not as compelling as they wanted it to be. And I know the quarterbacks didn't want to do it and whatever, but it's like, well, maybe leave a good thing alone then. I don't know. I'm not into it.
It's wild to me that the quarterbacks didn't want to come back to. So I have the kind of opposite reaction from you, Hayley. Like I've started receiver and I enjoyed the first episode a lot. I'm like midway through the second episode while dealing with daycare stuff. But the
damn kids,
fuck them kids. But the quarterback, maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it. Maybe I need to give it another try. I just couldn't get through the first episode enough, and I don't know if it was
once Mariota's gone, it gets a lot better.
Yeah, Mariota is a drag.
My God, Mariota was boring the hell out of me.
So boring.
It was Mariota and Kirk and Julie Cousins picking out his clothes for the day. Like, it just wasn't doing it for me.
But it was like still kind of fascinating from a like a morbid point of view.
Yeah. But receiver's been interesting to me from the start, just from the choices. I think like Amon-Ra St. Brown, interesting choice because then it dives into his bizarre family and his bizarro Superman kind of dad. That was a Mr. Universe at one
How would
point.
he have turned out if not in the NFL?
He didn't have a choice. Are you kidding me?
He had zero choice. He was literally
we'll send you away.
He was born and bred for this. And Deebo Samuel was a kind of low-key weird choice, and now especially with hindsight, Brandon Ayuk probably would have been the better shot right there, especially how in the news he is now.
Every time he popped up in a scene, I'm just like, give me something. Give me something.
The whole choices altogether, because George Kittle, if you're going tight end, they decide to throw a tight end to receiver. If you're going to go tight end, cool. Kittle's like somebody that you don't want to walk into in a cornfield at night. He's that kind of like crazy personality, but you got Travis Kelce right over there. You've been loving Travis Kelce as a league for a while. Throw him on the show, and it would have been the year. Like it would have
busy
been
on his boost tour,
but it would have been the season. Like you would have had Taylor Swift all over this show.
Well, and they probably were like, "Oh, the internet hated it." It's like, well, some people hated it. You want your watch numbers to go up? You put Taylor Swift on it.
Hell yeah! And then Davante Adams. I don't. Why? I mean, why? I don't know why.
I mean, he to me was
depressing.
the most. He to me was the most interesting one because of all of the drama. Yeah, like that's like Deebo brought no drama. He was just like. Anytime you saw him, he was just like getting physical therapy or whatever. Like that was like the only thing he did the whole show. Kittle,
I'm a dad and a wide receiver. Next,
Kittle annoyed me. Like at the beginning,
annoying.
I was fine with him, and like I'm super biased. I'm a Packers fan. Like I hate the 49ers. They've beaten the Packers in the NFC Championship like 40 times in my lifetime. Like I know that. I know that I'm biased, but like his whole shtick of like. I'm the cool guy who doesn't take anything serious and I'm going to manifest everything and I'm going to walk around. It's fine, I guess, if you're winning and you're just blowing through the playoffs and you're blowing people out by 40 or whatever every week. But it's not that cute if you're losing. You just kind of look like a doofus. And like, so it's like when they lost the Super Bowl, it's like, okay, maybe your whole thing isn't as like appealing to the masses as you think it is, I guess, on some level. Like your whole like I just don't care about anything guy. And I don't know. It's just like by the end, I was just I was like so annoyed by him. It was just like especially
you don't
that
become
last
a pro
scene.
athlete by quote not caring about anything. Like
Right,
that's not life.
And that's what's happened is he's part of this like very select group of people on planet Earth. We're just like everything's worked out. You know what I mean? Like he was probably the best player in his high school. Then he went on. He was one of the best players of his college. Then he got drafted. Then he went to a team. Then he got. It's like. Then he made it to the NFL. He got on the team, like all that stuff.
Dating a hot, considerate girl the whole time.
Like it's just, it's like, of course he believes in manifestation. Like everything's fallen his way his whole life. Like, he wouldn't if it hadn't. If he had not, maybe I don't know, been 4 inches shorter or something, like he probably wouldn't believe in all this manifestation stuff. So I don't know, like that it got on my nerves after a while. I thought this thing was two episodes too long. Like you could have they should have cut somebody. They should have cut a 49er just to like cut it down a little bit. The Amon-Ra thing's good because his family's bizarre and his dad was probably abusive. Let's be honest.
Probably. His dad hates his girlfriend. I mean, hates his girlfriend. It's so apparent.
He's like, oh yeah, he made us repeat every morning, girls are dream killers or whatever. I was like, why would you do that? Like, just I don't know.
Dude, when the popcorn got like dumped on her, his dad's just like, I was like, oh my God, you suck.
So I was cool with Amon-Ra. I was cool with Davante because it was a lot of drama. Jefferson like never really, I mean, he had the storyline of like being hurt, but like I've seen that. Yeah, like I've seen that so many times on Hard Knocks and on, I've seen the idea of like you got a sore hamstring and you're in recovery and it's hard and you have to do all this therapy. Like I know that, like I just felt like, yeah, like it was missing somebody. Like there was somebody in there that needed to be in there that would have given it more pop, I feel like.
You know what was cool was all that candy Justin Jefferson had in his house. I was like, "You're a freak."
I think it was DK Metcalf a couple of years ago. Somebody asked him like, "What do you eat?" Because he looks like a machine. I mean, his body is like a Greek god. And they're like, "What do you eat?" And he was like, "I eat one meal, I drink a cup of coffee, and then I just eat candy all day." And I was like, "What the hell?"
It's a flex,
dude. When we had like our regional sports tournament, we were playing football, and my buddy, like the side pocket of his gym bag was literally just Skittle packets. And I was like, what is going on with that? And I guess he heard that quote and was like, oh yeah, we gotta eat the sugar like in the middle of the games and stuff to keep our energy up and this and that. I'm just like, what?
Amon-Ra's dad being like, he doesn't need Gatorade, he needs Coke. He needs Coca-Cola.
That's such like an old guy thing to say.
It's not 1982 anymore, Dad.
That's such like a rural county high school coach thing to say to kids at halftime.
And then he's like, but nobody listens to me. I'm like, because you're advocating for terrible choices.
Because you're a psycho.
You had your kids out bench pressing at 5 a.m. every day. Like, maybe give it a rest.
I mean, the greats of this league, man, Marshawn Lynch, they used to throw Skittles at him from the stands. He would just like stand like that for Skittles the whole time. Or, Lynn Dawson having a Fresca, I think it was like a Fresca and a cigarette during the halftime of the Super Bowl. So
I'm blanking on his name. The Jets quarterback with the butt fumble, Mark Sanchez. He's the hot dog on the sideline. He's famous for eating the hot dog and trying to sneak it.
I think that hurt him during the game. Fourth quarter too. I think that came back to haunt him. I think he had a story with that.
Lynn Dawson, wasn't he drinking a beer or something?
A beer and a cigarette.
Yeah.
A cigarette. Yeah. I copped him out with a Fresca.
Iconic.
I do wonder how you all think, because I know that my bias is going to be there with Davante. Like I love Davante Adams. I saw every snap of his career in Green Bay. I was watching greatness like at a high level. Like the dude is Hall of Fame level. Like he's one of the greatest. But like how to you did he come off in this? Because to me, like I kind of felt like the offer that the Packers made him, and again, I'm biased, but like, I didn't think it was that crazy. Like he kind of acted like it was crazy. And I don't know if it came off that way. Cause I think you look at the Packers and you look at, all right, they are paying their whole receiver room like $2 million or something for 2 years now. And they're pretty talented. And Davante is 30. And again, he's still playing at a high level. But I kind of wonder how he came off. Because again, like I have to work through bias. Like I'm going to defend the organization, and I love Davante. I'm not going to take shots at him. Like I wish he was still on the Packers. But I also just I felt like there was a little bit too much made of that. Like hey, they lowballed me, so I got to go out and get it from somebody else or whatever.
So I haven't seen that episode yet, but from the little information, like from my first impression of like when all that went down, it was more of like why would he leave to play with Garoppolo of all people when he's playing with
he left to
a
play
Hall
with
of Fame?
Crazy
he left to
Club.
play with Carr, because they
Derek
played
Carr.
at Fresno State. But then Carr left after a year. They cut him.
But
it's like he
to
went
your
to play
point,
with
why
Carr,
would you do that?
Right.
why would you leave Aaron Rodgers for that? Like, who's more likely to actually get? Like, you're still. I'm sorry, you're still making millions of dollars, right?
The Derek
so
Carr
it's like
thing
if you have the opportunity to make millions of dollars and play with Aaron Rodgers and be more likely to get to a Super Bowl at that point, like it seemed weird for him to go to Vegas when, like, even if it was like low ball, like you had an opportunity to stay with Aaron Rodgers and actually like get somewhere. So it was just odd. And that whole thing of like, I want to play with my college quarterback is exactly why I don't want Ayuk to play with Jaden Daniels right now. It's like, you're not fuck up a good thing. Here's your prime example of why.
Hindsight kind of matters too a little bit, because Rodgers was, for the last couple of years of his career in Green Bay, he was really shaky. Like every time the Packers would lose in the playoffs, and then they would ask him, because the Packers went all in for like 2 or 3 years, and that's why they couldn't offer Davante this kind of money. They went all in multiple years in a row. They're paying for it last year and this year, where they're really just eating all this dead cap money from all these veterans and all this, where they tried to win and they didn't. But they would lose in the playoffs, and they knew that they were going to be worse next year than this year because they were going to lose guys. And they would ask Rodgers, and he would always say dumb shit. He'd be like, well, my future's a beautiful mystery or whatever. Like, he wouldn't just be like, yeah, I'm going to play.
That's fair.
And I think that mattered. Like, I think Davante kept hearing that, and he didn't know what Jordan Love was going to be. And I think he just kind of was like, all right, if you're going to leave, I'm going to go play with my guy, like, I think that mattered more than maybe Rodgers would care to admit, or maybe even Davante would care to admit on some level.
I don't know, because in the one where they play the Jets and Rodgers is still on the sideline, but they're like, practically making out with each other on the field. Oh, I missed you, dog. All that dinner last night. That's what I needed that so bad. I was like, okay, guys.
It's because he saw the other side.
Well, yeah, because he's like, this is fucking sucked, right? Like, I don't know. He was chasing $1, and maybe it was just $1, but I think the Derek Carr thing is mostly an excuse, because that didn't work out. And who's willingly like, yes, I'm gonna go play for Derek Carr?
Yeah.
And I mean, it boosted Carr's confidence for like a second, I guess. I think I always looked at it as kind of a combination of the two, right? Like he was going for the dollar, he wanted the money. I think that he figured if he's going to go ahead and get this money, let me just get out of Green Bay. Let me go someplace like Vegas. Like, I'm going to go to Vegas and play there and be the star of that city. But I think that there was a little ulterior. Maybe I'm giving Davante too much credit here. But Aaron Rodgers was kind of teetering on this edge of like, I'm going to retire or request a trade, or I don't know if I'll be in Green Bay next year for a couple of years. And could have been this thought process of like, let me go to another conference, go to the Raiders, this big bright city that wants a star at quarterback. Maybe I'll make Derek Carr, my homie from ASU, better. Or Fresno State, wherever we, had him at, will make him better. But if he don't, my boy could be trade bait for my new boy, for Aaron Rodgers. Let's go, you can bring Rodgers over here to Vegas. I'll meet you over here. Because we did have the trade rumors of, just last year of him possibly going to the Jets and reuniting with his buddy.
Oh, that's already started again. Yeah, they're already asking him about that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a natural
Adams
connection.
On the same team would be awesome.
Rodgers has always tried to dominate the front office. I mean, Rodgers has, I love the guy. Obviously, it's hard for me to say too many bad things about him for what he did for the team that I love. But like he has the problem that people say about LeBron or whatever, right? Where it's like he tries to run the front office, like tries to get the guys he wants in, and they get him in on big contracts. I mean, that is evident by what happened with the Jets last season, where they brought in Lazard and Cobb and Billy Turner and all these guys from the Packers and gave them these huge deals. and they weren't good. Like they were all old, which is what the Packers, why they let him go, you know? And so we'll see how much control Rodgers has. I mean, Hackett's still there, who the New York hates, but he's still there because he's Rodgers' guy. And you know, I mean, I bet Rodgers is putting in some words and saying, "Get my boy, like you want to win a Super Bowl, like go cough up whatever it costs, first round pick, second round pick, whatever. I don't know what the going rate is for Davante Adams, but cough it up and get him over here if you want to win." And I guarantee that is happening behind the scenes.
I think they eased it up a little bit on Rodgers too, because now you got Randall Cobb didn't get that safety net job back with the Jets. He's now with the SEC network, and 65-year-old Mercedes Lewis finally isn't getting playing time on the Packers or the Jets without Rodgers' help. I just loved all the Rodgers impressions. It was very good. We've got easily already some top 5 award nominations when those come up in a couple weeks. My future is a beautiful mystery. That's wonderful. You eat the fog you walk through. It's like all that.
It's like I was in the darkness and I saw a vision, and I'm not sure if it included football. It's like stuff like that. And you're just like, just say if you're playing. Like, just stop it.
Unhinged. So unhinged. He's already clashing this year with the coach. Like, I saw that on the news when I was at the gym today. Like, they're going at it. So, another bump.
I need like the deep thoughts with Aaron Rodgers quotes.
Oh, we got Super Bowl or burn the city down in New York. I mean, it is. I am here for it.
It's straight up. Oh my gosh.
I have one more Hard Knocks question before we move on.
I've got a Netflix question too. So Zoo, go ahead.
Okay, what did you two think about the in-season series being a whole division this time?
I thought
upcoming or last.
This
upcoming
in-season version of Hard Knocks is going to be like the whole AFC North.
I don't like the idea of spreading Hard Knocks out that much because it really dilutes it in my mind. Like, what makes Hard Knocks compelling is not like the access, yes, but it's the people. Like, that's what makes it compelling. Like when you're watching Hard Knocks training camp, that's why people always put that as like their top one, like because it's not really the stars. Like when you watch in season, it's the stars, like because it's the team, it's the 53. But when you're watching it in the training camp, you're seeing all these guys who are rookies, and they're not going to win a position, but they're still trying, and you're getting all their backstory, and that's what people tune in for. So like the more of that, like you give me like 5 or 6 really like deep character studies on some guys, I'm going to be for that all day past the access, past the really like spread out type thing. So I'm really just, I don't know. To me, I still think Hard Knocks, it's really hard for them to miss. Like, I think they just have a great production team and they have so much access. They can pick and choose stuff, but still, like, I like the idea of like really getting deep with like one group of people, because you see a lot more, I think, in my opinion. Like, I still remember the Hard Knocks we had with Bill O'Brien when he was the coach of the Texans. Like, that was my favorite Hard Knocks, like, because it got so into like his family, and he's like raises this like disabled son and like all this type of stuff. And you really saw that and like its effect on his coaching and everything. And I just feel like you're going to lose some of that a little bit the more you spread yourself out. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, if the point is to care about them, then I can only care about one team's focus at a time. That's the thing the Netflix doc is missing. I'm like, I don't care about these. You're trying to make me care, and I don't. I just don't.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like is going to happen with this in-season version. And it's going to be like, it's not going to hit the things that I want it to. Like, they're going to have cameras on the Browns. Let's are we going to dive into the Deshaun Watson stuff? No, we're not. That won't get touched whatsoever. But it's just like,
at least something won't.
Thankfully, yes. But I think Hard Knocks did this a few years ago. I think it was the COVID season with the Chargers and the Rams, and they wanted to focus on both LA teams. And I
remember that.
I couldn't bring myself to care about either. Really?
No, it wasn't as good. Yeah.
Or like I would want a little more on the Chargers, and then that episode's a little more about the Rams, and it's kind of frustrating. So I'm curious how it's going to go. I am really looking forward to the training camp version with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
And, seeing how Caleb Williams is interacting with that team. I did wonder if you all, because since we brought up all the football shows, have you all watched the only other one that we didn't mention on Netflix, which is the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders?
No, it is in the queue. I'm gonna watch it. I just haven't yet.
Why do you have such a shit-eating grin on your face, Jay?
Because I keep seeing stuff about it, and I'm like, no way. Oh, I gotta watch this.
You have George Kittle's shirt on underneath.
It's a shockingly fascinating show. Like I remember like the other version they used to have on country music television. They used to have it on CMT, and my parents would watch it, and I'd see a little bit of it. But this one is like so in depth. And it's my only suggestion to Netflix, which is they got the people behind Last Chance U to do this Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders show. So things get a little more in-depth. It's a little tighter. You really feel connected with the people. I'd love to see an NFL show that's tackled by that same crew and really getting into it. Even if it was like when quarterback was talking about what quarterbacks they're going to do for the next year, I was like, you know what? If nobody wants to do it, screw the stars. Get the backups. Let's follow the season, and the stress of a backup quarterback or a third stringer trying to fight.
That's so much more interesting.
For real, yeah.
Than like, I run, I catch the ball. I run, I catch the ball. I'm a diva. I'm a star. Okay. Also, the editing on receiver sucks.
Yes.
It sucks.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
If I notice it, it's noticeably bad.
Also, like, the football shows always try to do this thing where they like try to impress me by showing me the players reciting the plays. And I'm just not impressed by that very much. Like they're like, okay, oh yeah, this playbook is this thick, and on this page it says Alpha Right Bravo, comeback hitch or whatever, and then I can say it back or whatever. And it's like, aren't all people in all jobs kind of like, I don't know, like if I
doing what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, like sit down with
remembering
your
menu and all the toppings on
like,
it.
Get together with your friends at a bar and just be like, what do you do at work all day? And I bet pretty fast you'll be like, wow, you know a lot about this thing. Like, I don't know. It just feels like we kind of do that as human beings. I'm just like not that impressed by that. And they always try to do that. I'm just like, okay, I get it. But it's, I don't know. I'm just not blown away by that like they want me to be.
Is weak sauce.
I think any opportunity to hear the players talk unfiltered, like what they actually say on the field, is appeal for me.
Yeah.
I think outside of that was just
unless it's
like it's like, yes, they actually cuss.
Unless it's Kittle,
let me take this in.
I got a lollipop. Like that's the kind of thing that comes out of his mouth, and I'm like, just shut up.
And that's the thing. There's a rumor because NFL films, like when they're mic'd up the whole game, so that audio is somewhere. And I mean, I played football a little bit. I know on the field some, like just in high school, some of the truly awful shit that is said, like just in the heat of things. And I know that it's out there. Like, that these players are saying some wild stuff out there. So there's got to be like
locked underground in a vault,
a treasure trove. Yeah, like a vault of like, this can never get out.
Filth.
Unless you're Phillip Rivers, like anytime he'd be mic'd up, he'd just be like, "Oh shoot, dang it!"
Kirk too. Gosh darn it.
And Andrew Luck, anytime he gets sacked, he'd be like, "Good sack, buddy. That was great. Good job." Everybody else is like, "Fuck you, dude! Like, get the fuck out of my face!" Like everybody else is losing their minds.
Jump in.
Oh my goodness. All right. Great talk there. Great entree there, Hayley. Zoo, the curry puff. Do you have any curry puffs for us tonight? What do you got?
All right. So we're moving away from sports,
Uh-oh.
but we're sticking with television entertainment. So there's a lot of great shows that have come out this year so far. I got a very short list for you. By short, I mean a lot. We've got Shogun, The Bear, House of the Dragon, The Boys, Acolyte, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, X-Men 97, Presumed Innocent. All these shows have been phenomenal in their own way. But it brings up the question, what is better, the binge or the weekly release? For you personally, and for the culture of social conversation of mainstream media?
I feel like I would have to go with personally I'm enjoying binging. I'm finally I'm having some time to binge. So like going through The Boys, not on this weekly basis, but watching kind of like a season in a week or trying to spread it out on my own time, and I can decide when it hits or not, has been really enjoyable and a little more digestible. And sometimes I'm too antsy, I think, going week to week. Sometimes I think I'll get my hopes up and a little too hyped up about what's coming on, what episode's happening next week, and then I'm disappointed. If I'm going through a binge, boom, I can get through that one, go to the next episode, or I enjoy it all on a different speed. For the culture and for, people as a mass, I think the weekly binge is still working, or not weekly binge, the weekly release is still working in a way of this new era water cooler talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll get, people are looking forward to House of the Dragon every Sunday night. And I guess people were watching The Acolyte. It was in my algorithm on Twitter, and trying to guess what's coming week to week. So there's talk and there's hype going around it and surrounding it, and it works for these shows, like the wonderful shows on the Stranded Panda Network that are going to be covering something weekly and going through it like that. X-Men 97 was fun on a weekly basis, even though I think they should have released it on Saturday mornings. Would have been a little more fun on Saturday.
That would have been
mornings. Yeah, a little more nostalgic there. But that's my feeling on the debate that's taken America and the world by storm. Maybe the universe.
Maybe the spiders. We don't know.
I bet those Jarros
Can you guys go grab one and ask him?
I'll go get it.
What do you think?
Special guest.
I like a week-to-week format personally because, like you mentioned kind of at the end, Reed, I like the anticipation of, tonight's House of the Dragon night. Tonight's the Acolyte night. I can't wait to watch that when I'm done with XYZ. But I think it is interesting to think about, like, that's me with new shows. Like, I'm watching Outlander right now on Netflix, and I'm binging that because I'm starting behind, and I like being able to binge it, but it's an older show. So to me, it's like, it's not the same, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think for society, I think they want the binge because people are so goddamn impatient. They can't wait for a story to play out. Now, I'll caveat that with The Acolyte, which I really enjoyed and I want a season 2 of. I'm not saying it was perfect. It totally wasn't, but it was really cool. It had some really, really cool things. I think they should have released that show 2 episodes at a time.
I could see it, yeah.
That's fair.
Because there's so many shows now, especially in this binge and this weekly format, especially, and we'll get into this in my topic on, like Disney Plus, where they're like 40 minutes. It'll say 40 minutes or 49 minutes, but like with credits and everything, it's like 38. And so it feels really light and stuff. The only thing for me too that I forgot with binge is just where I have to be very careful to not spoil myself. And like people are so quick to these binges, or if I'm behind on a show like The Boys, like I looked up one clip, of the dolphin scene on The Boys. I wanted to watch it again on YouTube. Now I keep getting hit with scenes from The Boys. It was like, watch this one. And I was like, wait, I don't even want to know where this is. I don't want to know the context.
You have to go like into incognito mode, throw on a VPN and everything just to look up a clip of something.
Well, Twitter is just the worst about it. You cannot go on Twitter if you don't want to be spoiled with anything.
I'm watching The Boys right now, like the current season, but I'm behind a couple episodes. And I mean, the finale dropped like today, I think, or yesterday or something. And I'm already seeing stuff like I'm having to scroll past really fast. I know I'm going to get stuff spoiled because I still have like 3 or 4 episodes left to go. And it's just like, if you're a company, you really want the weekly release because like if you do like the Stranger Things thing, you drop it all at once or whatever, like Netflix gets about a week or 2 to really like capitalize on that movement, with the social media spaces and the clips and the late night shows and all that stuff. But like it's done within a few days, people have seen it and they're moving on to the next thing. And so it's really like you think about Stranger Things, which is like millions and millions of dollars of production at this point. Like it's Netflix's biggest show by far. And they're going to drop that season 5, but they're going to have to figure out a way and they'll do what they did last time. They'll drop like 3 episodes and then they'll wait and they'll drop like a month later. They'll drop 3 more. Right. And it's like, because they're trying.
That is the wrong thing to do.
Because that's the problem. They're in a corner. Like they've been the binging platform. And so they don't want to give that up.
That. Just binge. Let them binge.
But it's also
the part 1 and 2 thing.
They've seen the downside of like, man, like we throw that thing out there and we're going to get a lot of views for like 2 weeks and then we're done. and like we can't really promote it anymore. And sometimes it works. Like one of the best examples I've seen of it is Prime's Fallout. Like Fallout was a binge. It dropped all at once, and it was huge online. Like it kept, because it kept gaining steam. Like people kept being like, this is good, you should watch it. And then they'd start it. And it like, it was in the conversation for at least a month or two. Like people were still talking about it for a while. But that's just not always the case. Like dropping these things all at once, it's like you get like one firecracker pop, and then you just kind of have to wait. So it's like, you know, for the culture, I like the idea personally of the weekly release. I mean, I think it's the way that we can consume this content in our connected world that we live in, where we're not spoiling each other. We're still talking about it. You know, there's still excitement being built, but you know, people have strong opinions about it. Like a lot of people I've heard give the other side. They're like, well, if you want to watch it weekly, watch it weekly. And it's like, I get that. But at the same time, like we're connected now, you know, in ways that we used to not be. Like we're connected on the internet in ways that we used to not be. And it complicates it a little bit.
Yeah, because at least it would be like, all right, it's 9 o'clock. I'm out doing something on a Sunday, so I won't be able to watch House of Dragon. Like, I know to stay off the internet, but like, if all of it came out at once, I'm supposed to stay off for a whole week until I have time to like sit and watch 10 episodes or whatever it is. And then, like, from a business perspective, what I don't get about the part 1, part 2 thing for Netflix is that I feel like when there's a weekly show, if the first episode is just kind of like, all right, that was okay, there's this expectation of like, I'll still watch it because I'm curious, maybe it'll get better. But if there's like part 1 of 5 episodes and part 2 doesn't come out for another month or two, and those 5 episodes sucked, and you're just canceling Netflix, like for like you signed up just for the show, you're gonna like, if you cancel, like what's gonna entice you to come back for something afterwards? So for a lot of these shows, like it's just been fun. On like Wednesdays, or Tuesdays, I knew I was going to watch Acolyte. Wednesday, I knew I was going to watch Presumed Innocent. Saturday and Sunday were my anime days when those had those weekly releases. And it was just easier to like, I could just text Hayley and be like, did you watch today? No, I'm waiting for tomorrow. Okay, cool. And then we can know that we've seen the same episode. It's not, which one are you which episode are you on? Oh, the one where this person dies. It's like, cool, I'm 2 away from that. Like, Thanks for fucking it up for me.
Hey, I would never do that to you.
No, you wouldn't. But that's why I talk to very, very, very few people about shows now, because, man, there's just no gray area. It's like, oh, it's the best thing I've ever seen. Or, oh, it's dog shit. Like, why would you watch it? It's like, no, dude, there's middle ground for these. So I've gotten very, very particular about who I talk to about TV shows and movies now.
The one thing I will say with the week to week format is I'm glad that these streamers have caught up with maybe some of the complaints. I know this was a big complaint for me back when like Loki season 1 was on, and I was really into that on a week to week basis when it would drop. However, the episodes wouldn't drop until like 3 a.m. or whatever, whatever time that was going to be. And there were occasions where like I would stay up till that late just to watch the episode drop, and then like I'm feeling like I'm tripping out by the end of the episode because I'm way past bedtime. And
the things that came out of Jeff's mouth, though, that was entertainment of its own.
I watched,
when he tried podcasting at 4 a.m. after.
I remember trying to watch, and I remember Jeff losing it throughout that 4 a.m. shift. And now we're getting, 9 o'clock drops for the Acolyte over here. I'm
way better.
It's so much better. So much
better. I still have beef with Simu Liu, who starred in Shang-Chi, because on the last episode of the last season, or the season before last of The Mandalorian, when Luke Skywalker shows up, he tweeted at 6 a.m. Eastern time, like, oh man, Luke Skywalker was awesome in that last episode of The Mandalorian. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like,
you have to wonder, like,
to be kidding me right now.
Did they think an overseas normal time drop was a better idea? And why was that the decision when they launched Disney Plus?
No, USA's always first. It's everyone needs
number one in the world.
USA.
Me and Hayley had the conversation about how we're really liking this new format of like the first 2 episodes drop for something. It's like one that really, like for Shogun, the first episode just really set the world and the foundation. The second one was just like, all right, this is where shit really takes off. So I do like the idea of things coming out in 2s. If 2, like a 2 a week thing, because Punisher, for example, that came out all at once, but format-wise, when you watched it, it was like action-packed episode, story-setting episode, action story, and they kind of like divvied it up like that. So it's like, if that's the intention of it, maybe one week you just have something that's a good mix. But if you know that it's heavy one way or the other, if the episode just needs to be like a 30-minute one and then like a 50-minute one, you need to put those out at the same week.
It's a nice
options.
It's a nice system some shows have kind of like set up for themselves. I've been rewatching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again, and towards like the second half of the show, like the season started divvying up into about like 4 to 6 episode arcs. So you can kind of just it's a like a breezy, fun binge. Just go through these 4 episodes and take a break. Boom, we'll go into the next arc right after that. Yeah, I'm down with that. All right. I like it. It's a nice transition right here into you know, the I'll call yours the dessert. Mine will be like the post dessert, like wine, or you know, whatever you need after
the bourbon by the fire.
Right, the bourbon by the fire. Yeah, going to sleep. It's the you know, the little blanket you put on when you get in the good chair.
Having a sleepover? Sleepover
sure.
potluck?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, this is the 4 a.m. show. Yeah. I want to talk about sort of like Disney and Marvel, since we've got the crossover extravaganza here. You guys brought in sports. We'll bring you the entertainment and Marvel culture. The MCU is about to have one of its biggest releases, biggest and most important releases in a long time, with Deadpool and Wolverine coming next week. I think it's a very important in terms of.
Is it next week?
It's next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of what's, you know, come, you know, it's been, you want to say like a downward trend. It's, you know, still doing well in terms of franchising, but the Marvels, as much of a movie that I enjoyed, did not do well whatsoever at the box office in total. And, you know, with whatever trolls are online trying to take it down, and people want to shit on things after a long time and after repeated success. Marvel is now having that turn. But I mostly want to talk about franchising in general, and especially with Disney, but it's happening all across studios where IP and franchises are taking kind of central stage when it comes to what's important, what we're going to fast track, what we're going to put the money into, maybe too much money into. And Bob Iger, president of Disney, kind of made that very clear at one of the more recent expos. We're talking about that IP sequels are going to be what they really look into. And we've seen that with the upcoming Disney animation releases. Inside Out 2 came out, was fantastic. Sequel. We're getting a Moana sequel that kind of hit me up out of nowhere. We're getting the Lion King prequel that's coming out later.
Is it the Moana sequel or the live action?
No, it's a sequel, and they pushed the live action. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. The sequel's coming out in November out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, you're getting both.
I think it was supposed to be a Disney Plus show at first, and then they decided to make it a film. So they got that coming out. Frozen 3, Toy Story 5, which I wasn't excited about at first, but now once I heard that, I think it's Andrew Stanton is supposed to be directing it, who did Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, the original 2 Toy Stories. He's coming to do 5. You got my curiosity. You got an eyebrow raised. But even with Marvel, like, we're seeing so much, like, I mean, it's constant rumors about what's going to get greenlit, what's going to be looked into. I know Kang Dynasty for the Avengers was going to be the next big project in terms of Avengers films, but Jonathan Majors and his, you know, unk dancing that he's doing at random parties now, he got fired. So we got to like revisit some things. Maybe like to get the money going, maybe we do Avengers versus X-Men next and just like really try to launch into multiverse and, really launch into nostalgia and trying to bait people back in. I see that face, Zoo. I'll throw it to you there. But I just want to know
multiverse anymore.
I want to know how you guys feel about the importance of IP to studios over more original scripts and original films. Like we talked about this on Multiverse News, where you're getting more original films like what was the Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt?
The Fall Guy.
Fall Guy, where that came out. It's a big, it's a adaptation of a show, but it's, more lesser known to today's audiences. It could be looked at as a little more original. And how long do we have it in the theaters? Like all of 3 weeks, 4 weeks before it got released to digital. A lot of original projects aren't really kind of getting that love and that push. So, to make way for IP, would you guys rather have it that way? Do you want to see more of the emphasis on IP? Do you have as much of an interest in original films, or does it take a lot more to get you intrigued?
What was the last original film I watched?
We're to that point.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
I mean, because like there's so much stuff where like I didn't even know it was based off of content. Like two of the shows on my list, Presumed Innocent and Shogun. I didn't realize there were books before and shows before and movies before and this and that. Like I saw a big actor, I saw a cool trailer, and I was like, cool, I'm into this. I don't like look into it that much, but so I guess that answers where it's like reutilizing this stuff isn't bad if you're making it engaging. Like if there's popular books or popular 70s and 80s show that you have an opportunity to modernize and tell a good story that is enticing and engaging, and you can reach out to dum-dums like me that don't read that much or know that much of books or 80s culture, then sure, by all means, like good content is good content. I don't move away from original for the sake of original, but like outside of anime, I mean, I guess anime is not even doing that much original stuff anymore. Everything's just an isekai these days. But yeah, it just comes down to what can you do that's enticing enough. Like Dune's doing something right. That's why it's as engaging it is. Like Star Wars is doing something right, despite how much heat it gets, but it's working. It just has to be entertaining.
Yeah, well, and a lot of theaters are in this place where people are not going to the theater for anything. They're not going to the theater for just a movie on the weekend. They're going for events, or they're going for event films. And so you've got studios doing this. They're looking over their list of all the IPs that they own, and they're saying, all right, what is on this that we haven't touched in a few years? What needs a prequel? What needs a sequel? Like, what can we tap into an already existing fan base to get them to come to the theater? Because if you know the way our structure works now, it's like it's on streaming pretty quick. It's on digital pretty quick. And that's why the Fall Guy ultimately was such a flop at the box office, is because it's not that people didn't want to see it. People saw it when it was available on digital. They bought it. And then I bet when it finally hits streaming, it'll be one of the most viewed things on streaming for a few weeks. Like it'll top the Nielsen ratings because people want to see it. There's a vested interest there, but they're weighing their options about the theater, and they're saying the Fall Guy or, this movie that is connected to something else that will get spoiled if I don't see it in theaters or whatever. So it's this weird middle ground that these studios are trying to find. Like, okay, you won't come out for, Disney's Wish because it's a new thing, but you'll come out for the Super Mario Brothers movie because it's a nostalgia, and it's the kids will want to see it and the parents want to see it. And so it's like, but they're both animated, but it's like you're trying to walk that line between like what is going to get people to the theater versus like what are people just going to wait for, and watch at home. And it's this really fine line, but it's sequels. That's what we watch. I mean, like people didn't go see the Fall Guy, so you're not going to see more movies like the Fall Guy. People go see Inside Out 2, so you're going to get an Inside Out 3. Like it's just, that's just kind of the world we live in, is like the culture, it demands it. Like that's where our money goes. It goes to these sequels and the prequels and the expansions of the universe.
I'm forgetting the movie he talked about, but there was one Matt Damon movie that was out in theaters, and he was talking about how him and the cast were like concerned because they thought it was a flop and they didn't know what to think of it and what's happening with theaters. And then as soon as it hit streaming, like it was like top movie for, X amount of weeks and this and that, and just how baffling it was to like all the actors in that industry now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not the right test audience for this, because I'll go see a movie if it has actors I like in it. Like we went to see Fly Me to the Moon because I love Scarlett Johansson. I don't care about Channing Tatum. He was just there, but I'll go see Scarlett and anything. And it was cute and it was nice. And I think the last original, I don't know if that was an original, picture or not, but I think Challengers was the last thing we went to see in theaters. I love tennis, and it looked fresh and interesting, and so I was like, yeah, let's go see this. But I'm not everybody. I'm not the mass audience who we don't know what they want. We really don't seem to know what they want. We talk about this every single week on Multiverse News, where it's like, do they hate franchises? They're not going to see the Marvels. Oh, but this franchise film came out and they seem to love that. So I don't know. It's wild. It's like the Wild West out there in Hollywood. They're just throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks.
Marvel's in a weird place. I mean, I think there was clearly a push to just like turn the faucet on. Like there was clearly a push to just like make stuff, like fill out Disney Plus. It was just like you'd finish. I mean, literally, like it would be there was a Marvel show, and then 2 weeks later we would start a new Marvel show, and then it would be Marvel and Star Wars running at the same time with a show, and it was just a lot. And then there was like movies coming out, and like some were connected and some weren't, and some were good and some weren't, and some were really average and some were just like not written well, and it was just like you were just kind of getting this like hodgepodge, and it really, I think it turned people off. Like I think just like the mass amount of content, like it seemed like a slam dunk after Avengers Endgame, because we left that theater being like, oh man, this movie was awesome and it made $1 gajillion, and like everybody loves Marvel. It felt like they would just cash $1 billion check every time that they put a movie in the theaters. You know, I mean, every single one of their movies was breaking $1 billion, like no problem. But it's just like now we're kind of on the other end of that Chapek era, where like those projects that he greenlit are gone, and we're starting to look to the future. And it's like, okay, well, what are we focusing on? Well, we're focusing on the event films, the Thunderbolts, and we're focused on Captain America, like the big, like proven type things. We've got the Russo brothers just getting, brought back in to direct Avengers 5 and 6, who directed Infinity War and Endgame and Civil War and The Winter Soldier. Like that makes total sense, right? It's like, try to get back to what works, try to like space out your properties a little bit, give your people time to like make things that connect in a meaningful way.
Slow down and have a long-term game plan.
Slow down. Like you could feel the rush on a lot of these shows. Like when you watched them, I mean, like, really in that, I mean, you start naming them off and you're like, man, we had WandaVision, we had Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like Miss Marvel, Secret Invasion, like, She-Hulk, like Moon Knight. Like, I mean, it's just like you start naming them and you're like, that is a lot. Hawkeye.
It was exhausting to be
like,
a podcaster at that time.
Yeah, like it's too much. And it was.
I'm glad you brought that up
great.
because one of the big problems was that not only are you trying to keep up with all the content, but there are the casual watchers who are trying to get into it because it's a big thing, but they're throwing in so much fan service for things that people want and things that are from the comics and things that were referenced in this, that now these guys can't keep up. And then you go into multiverse, so you're like tapping into this X-Men movie that no one's ever heard of, and the Spider-Man movie that was supposedly a flop, and then you're trying to keep up with that. And then all the podcasts and the shows, and then them referencing each other. Oh, he said this one on this show, and this person went over there. Like, how is that not going to make somebody go dizzy? Like, this is supposed to be for fun, and it became at some point a chore where it's like, if you're not locked into it, you're not going to be able to keep up with it all.
Yeah, like if I tell my friend who saw Avengers Endgame, oh, hey, you want to go see the new Avengers movie in like 2026 or whatever? It's like he's probably not going to want to see it because he's going to be like, well, hasn't there been 20 shows and 10 movies since then? Like, I'm not going to know what's going on. And he probably won't, because like, the audiences don't like the multiverse stuff. Like, I mean, people can say what they want. I mean, individually, people might like it, but audiences do not like the multiverse stuff. It's confusing. The rules don't make sense. It's just like people are over the cameos. They don't care about the cameos. Like, it's just, there's a lot of rethinking that needs done. And I think it's been happening. Like, I think based on the small tidbits of information that Kevin Feige lets out into the world, it seems like there is a restructuring, a rethinking, a retooling going on. But Marvel's they're a fascinating case of just like the roller coaster, because in some ways, like what we've been talking about, like the sequels, the franchises, like they're kind of responsible for that on some level, because their success caused other people to emulate what they were doing and try to like create, I mean, to where like cop shows that were on CBS would have like 4 spinoffs and they would all take place in the same universe. Like, and then they'd all show up on the season finale together. Like it was all an Avengers thing, like, so it's this world that we're living in where, I don't think Marvel is like dead by any means, but I think it's just, there's it'll be interesting to see where they're at when we get to these Avengers movies, what kind of interest there is in them. Like if they've recouped a lot of that faith, or if people are just kind of turned off. Like they're just like, that was a thing. We did it a few years ago. We did Avengers. That was it. And then I fell off and never got back on.
Yeah, there really is go back to sticking with like 3, maybe 4 titles a year.
Yeah,
that being a mix of shows.
If that
and movies.
absence makes the heart grow fonder thing. I've been seeing recently, and I don't know if it's circling around the Acolyte or just shows in general, but people are like, I'm sick of all these like multi-year gaps between shows. I'm like, you don't understand. We're not just making multicam sitcoms anymore for television. We're making mini series, which is like 4 length, 2-hour length movies for a show for streaming. The production is incredible on these shows, and like the time and the effort and the writing and the everything, it's maximized so much more than Young Sheldon or whatever, or Big Bang Theory or whatever the last. I always say the Big Bang Theory was like the last great sitcom that was on television, because I think it was. And it's not, but that's not the kind of television we're watching on streaming as much anymore. So I understand people want the thing, but I'm like, okay, so then it's working.
Yeah.
Right. It's a complete divide. And just finishing up there is, I also give in just like a little bit of the frustration for fans, especially with Marvel, where so much was put out. Like, it's good to space it out now, but you still have this weird thing where they also have to kind of catch up, I believe, where we had so much put out post-Endgame to where you're not getting follow-up on characters that you might really enjoy. Like Shang-Chi came out, it was one of my favorite. It's one of my top MCU films, and have not seen him or really like any of those characters since then, outside of like, following up a little bit on Abomination and She-Hulk. Don't know when we're going to see She-Hulk again. Don't know when we're going to see Moon Knight again. I really enjoyed Moon Knight. I love Oscar Isaac. I was very happy to have him in that role. And, I mean, hell, we got, I guess, spoiler alert this late, Blade's voice at the end of Eternals.
We don't have enough time tonight to talk about the Blade.
Every week we're like, Blade, is it or is it not happening? I don't know.
Go to Reddit for the Blade movie dissertations.
Just closing out on here, San Diego Comic-Con is going to be next week. Marvel is expected to have its major presence again in Hall H on Saturday night. What are you guys hoping for or expecting? Well, I guess hoping for and expecting from this event.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to dominate Comic-Con. They have 2 panels at Hall H. There's no DC Studios anywhere to be found. It's just going to be all Marvel at San Diego Comic-Con. They have Deadpool and Wolverine coming out that weekend. And so I don't think that there will be a lot of new stuff confirmed, just because we have so much already confirmed for the future, right? I mean, we have Captain America coming next year, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, The Avengers, 2 Avengers films. There's a streaming show, Agatha, Daredevil, Ironheart. Like, all these things have been announced. A lot of them have already finished filming. They're in post-production. I just don't know what else you would announce. Like, are you going to announce something for 2028? Like, probably not. So I don't think there'll be a lot of like big mic drop, like here's our phase, like here's all the stuff that we're doing, and it's all these 10 things you didn't know that were coming or whatever. Because I don't think that's what they need to do. Like, this needs to be a message. Like,
it's a state of the union for Marvel.
Yeah, like, this is a state. That's a good way to say it. Like, this is we've got the ship righted. We have got all of these fantastic things being made, and they're in deep post-production, and we've got great casts, and we'll show you some sizzle reels from all of them, and just kind of like, here's some shots of Captain America. I don't even think you'll see, Fantastic Four hasn't even started filming yet. They'll probably...
they have. They started in June, I thought.
I think they start Monday after Comic-Con.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have the schedule, Jay. Pedro didn't text me. Did he text you?
But yeah, like, I think like you're probably, I don't think you're going to see a lot of like big mic drop stuff. Like, the biggest stuff we'll get is probably just like, hey, we've changed Avengers 5 title. It's not Kang Dynasty anymore. Like, they'll probably do that. We already have confirmation that the Russos are in early talks to direct these movies. They'll probably bring the Russos out and be like, what are you guys thinking for, Avengers or whatever? We know that there's a writer for the X-Men movie, so they might talk a little bit about, hey, in 4 years, we're going to make an X-Men movie or whatever. But like, I don't think That's not what they don't need to shoot their shot 5 years in advance. I want to hear about the next 3 years. Like, what are you doing in the next 3 years? Like, give me these huge tent poles that you have happening. Captain America, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Avengers. Like, tell me about those. Don't get in here and start dropping about, all these random characters that you're going to make spinoffs about. Like, tell me about the big stuff. And I think that's what they're going to do. Ultimately, they're going to have a lot of cast, a lot of questions, a lot of panels, probably not a lot of new stuff.
Yeah. The first thing I told Hayley when we saw the Captain America trailer was, thank God they're going back to smaller stories. That's literally all they need to focus on. They don't need the big team up anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. They're in confidence building mode right now.
Yeah,
They're really
sure.
trying to win back the trust of their stakeholders and their audience, and that's what this is going to be. I think we get Catherine Hahn doing some Agatha stuff and probably some of that cast, I bet we could get
on stage.
I bet we get Anthony Mackie and some of the Cap stuff, but I don't think we get Fantastic Four. But that would be a fun surprise. That would be a good idea.
I wouldn't be
Maybe
surprised
concept art.
I wouldn't be surprised if the cast came out. Like,
but I don't
especially
think,
if they're filming soon or whatever.
Kevin's in damage control mode.
I can see like a costume shot, maybe. Like, I'm sure they've done fittings and stuff, so maybe they'll have a costume shot and show what they'll look like there. I know I saw Sebastian Stan is supposed to be. He announced that he'll be there that Saturday for it, so maybe some Thunderbolts.
I want some sassy Harrison Ford on the microphone. That's what I want.
Oh, I can't. That's the thing I cannot wait for with this. I can't wait for Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford being on press tours together.
I love when they ask Harrison Ford like nerd shit and he gets so mad. Like they used to do that stuff to him in Star Wars all the time. That
was Star Wars. I'll be curious to see what he's like with Marvel.
With Rise of Skywalker when he was doing the press tour for that. They were like, "So were you a Force ghost at the end of that movie?" And he was like, "I don't know what the hell that even is. Like, what? Like, just ask me about the movie. I don't know what that is. You just wait till they ask about Red Hulk. He'll be like,
Harrison forever.
That thing got all digitized. Like, he has no clue what Red Hulk is. Like, he didn't do anything for that. Like, that's all done on the computer.
I'm still so mad they put that in the trailer.
It was a big drop.
Somebody had asked him. I think there was a quote like when he first got cast for Captain for this that they asked him. They said, "Are you going to be Red Hulk in this?" And he just, "What's a Hulk?"
Dude, he's gold all the time. Yeah, if he and Mackie aren't always paired, it'll be a travesty.
Shrinking season 2 got announced. Very excited for that.
Yes.
I love that
Yay! I love that show.
Fantastic show. Can't wait for it. Hey, this has been a fantastic potluck dinner. Wake up!
Jumped up. I'm like,
I thought you were yelling at Jay for paying attention.
Reed's ready for bed, y'all.
Oh my gosh. It's been great to have you guys here. Thank you for joining the madness of this network for a night. Hayley, Hobbs, Jay Sisson. You can catch them Multiverse News, source pages, commute, comma, slash, colon, dash, slash the podcast. You can catch them on all of it, the Stranded Panda Network. You can also check out our most handsome boy, Zuhair Ali. Zoo, the Animation Deliberation Podcast. You can check them out wherever you get podcasts. Thank you guys so much for being here. You always have a home over here. If you need to talk sports, you need an outlet for it.
We do.
We do. Because we just start talking to each other and nobody cares.
And look, we're always looking for, guest pickers during our NFL season. Ricks versus Gricks. We'll be getting everything out. So
when the Packers-Chiefs Super Bowl, happens this year, the matchup just...
Oh, God.
I can feel you staring into my soul right now while you say that.
I got so uncomfortable to see you said that.
Wasn't that intense? Jeez.
When the Packers, trounce the Chiefs 28-20 in the Super Bowl, bring me back on and
then
Hayley
your wife will pinch you and you'll wake up and go take the kids to school.
Jordan Love, Super Bowl MVP, 3 touchdowns.
We'll
gotta keep that dream alive.
I can see it now.
Bring you back on for like the holy wrath from our whole Chiefs fan base here on the show. Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I'm still hoping this builds up into. We've talked about it for a couple years and builds this into like an Avengers Endgame level event of the Family Feud, the 323 Family Feud we've been trying to do of our network versus Stranded Panda Network. For one night only.
And apparently I'm moderating that.
Yeah, Zoo has to be the moderator. Yes, he is fully neutral in this fight. I mean, maybe too much bias.
Chaotic neutral.
Yes, exactly. Oh, full chaotic. Trust me. Yeah, trust that.
It's the only way we do it here.
Hey, folks, go to the 323 Network on YouTube. Subscribe there. Follow us. You can see all of our beautiful faces there all the time and plenty of great content. At 323read, at 323reads, all the social media. Go follow there. Thank you all for watching, listening, doing whatever it is you do. We will talk to you later. Stay safe, everybody.